Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. We cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Song of Songs 3, and we end up the first letter of Peter, 1 Peter chapter 5. Now, for me, Song of Songs chapter 3 is quite a sad chapter because we know it's about Solomon. We know it's about his young bride. And we know that he's just got married. And we know that because the very last verse of this chapter says, "Come out and look, you daughters of Zion. Look on King Solomon wearing a crown, the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced." So the bride is saying to all her friends, come out and have a look at my husband. Here he comes. I haven't seen him for ages, but they're newly married. But with that as a background, look how sad this is. All night long, I lay on my bed and looked for the one my heart loves. He's not there. So I will get up now and go throughout the city and through its streets and squares. I'll search for the one that my heart loves. The watchmen found me as they made their rounds in the city. Have you seen the one my heart loves? And scarcely as I passed them, verse 4 says, I found the one my heart loves. I held him and would not let him go. Here's a newly married king with his bride, and she can see he's slipping away. And then she says to her friends, "O daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you like the gazelles of the field, do not arouse or waken love until it so desires." I think there's a tinge of regret here, saying that she has given herself wholeheartedly, and she's saying to her friends, don't do it too soon. Who is this coming up from the wilderness like a column of smoke? Look, it's Solomon's carriage. She'd obviously been left behind on one of his trips throughout his kingdom. And there she's saying to her friends, here comes my husband. Well, we'll have more to see in Song of Songs, chapter 4 tomorrow. But I think this paints a pretty sad picture. Hastily getting into a marriage of a guy who clearly has issues. Now, 1 Peter 5, Peter writes to elders, and he writes to the young, and he writes to all the believers in that region. To the elders among you, he says, I appeal to you as a fellow elder. That's what he says. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care. In fact, so what do shepherds do? They protect, they feed, they love, they lead, watching over them. Not because you must, because you're willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording over those entrusted you, but being examples to the flock. He says your leadership's going to be different to the world, serving them, laying your life down to them, and not doing it because of what you can get out of it. This is a probing text looking at the heart of leaders in the kingdom. And then he swings his attention to young people, and he says, in the same way, you younger, submit yourselves to your elders. Like the elders are submitting to each other and being humble, submit yourself to each other. Then he says to everybody, all of you, clothe yourselves with humility, because God opposes the proud and he gives favor to the humble. When you are standing and God is opposing you, you're in big, big trouble. And one way to get God to oppose you is to become arrogant and proud. So humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand. I've always been told it's not a good thing to say, God, humble me. No, you humble yourself. You humble yourself and don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. And then cast your anxiety on him, he says. Be alert and sober-minded, because your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. How do you think he devours you? Well, if he can get you to be anxious, if he can get you to be full of fear instead of faith, if he can get you to be proud and arrogant, you're on a slippery slope. So resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same sort of suffering, the same sort of testing. And the God of all grace, well, who is the God of grace? Well, that's Jesus, isn't he? And what is grace? Well, grace is giving you what you don't deserve. Karma is the philosophy in Eastern religions that gets you what you deserve. So good people get good things, bad people get bad things. But grace, you don't get what you deserve. It's the God of grace who treats you kindly, even when you don't deserve it, who will make you stand strong and firm and steadfast. He's the one that'll hold you through these tough times. And so Peter ends his letter like that, saying, be humble, be steadfast, be strong, trust in the Lord, and He will hold you.